Have you ever wondered how much trouble it really is to have a flock of backyard chickens for fresh eggs? Well, I'll tell you ahead of time, there are some surprises and some dismaying moments, but it is so worth it. And if you're curious, this is just going to be an overview of what's involved to just start the thinking process of what it takes to raise your own flock of backyard chickens. I've had my own flocks of chickens both in California and up north in Montana, so have quite a bit of experience with it, and it is a worthwhile endeavor. Backyard Chickens 101, we're going to talk about cost, local zoning and neighbors, housing and containment, food, water, and care, and then lastly, just a quick overview of what to look for when you're selecting breeds for what type of bird you want. Cost. I'm not going to run specific numbers, but it is important to look at what is this going to cost me? What is it going to cost me to buy the birds initially, to raise them until they can be laying? Most people buy chicks, so that would be the cost until they start laying. And of course, housing, how much is feed going to cost as they're laying? How much will I actually be gaining if I'm just looking at it from a financial standpoint? You may not always break even, but there are perks involved that are not tangible, but you'll definitely want to look at cost. Local zoning is important because in some areas, chickens are not allowed at all. Other areas, a lot of areas in the city, they are allowed, but there are restrictions on how many. For example, in my town, I just have a little excerpt from some of the zoning laws. It says a party wishing to keep chickens shall submit an application to keep chickens to the police department, animal control. The application needs to contain the following. Again, this is just for my area in Montana. There's a maximum of 4 birds for every 3,000 square feet of house space. For each additional 1,000 square feet, 1 additional hen may be added. A sketch identifying the party boundaries, etc., must be submitted to the police, name and address of the property owner, etc., etc. How many feet must the chickens be kept from surrounding properties and all of that. So you really want to look at those details when you are considering getting chickens. And then lastly, neighbors. Make sure that you don't have a cranky neighbor that would be more cranky if you have chickens. Housing and containment. This is a fun area to research because there are really a lot of different ways to do it. You can buy a pre-made coop that's ready to go. It comes in a package. You just literally, well, you may not even have to put it together. It might be able to fit in the back of your pickup truck, but you literally just get it put together and you're good to go. Some people upcycle things like a playhouse or a shed or storage building. And then you'll also want to look at fencing because unless you want your birds truly free range and you don't mind them pooping on your porch, you will definitely need something to contain them and to keep the neighbor's dog out and your chickens in where they need to be. Chickens also scratch a lot, and so that's something to consider if you have flower beds and other things, your lawn, although it is free fertilizer, right? Food, water, and care for chickens is actually fairly simple, but there are a few things to just be aware of. Feed type can change per age, so what you would feed chicks is going to be different from what you would feed mature laying hens, for example. Clean water, there are different types of water. Some are better at keeping the water clean than others, so that's a great place to research. I have found, I personally use little nipple waterers, so they have a little toggle that the chickens peck, and that allows the water to come out, and it always stays clean because they can never step in it. Egg laying area is very necessary. Chickens like soft material to sit in when they're laying. They like a cozy, kind of dark place to lay their eggs. It's a very private act. And so you'll need to think about those things. You also need to think about how many nests you want because you can only have so many birds per nest or they will end up squishing in there, fighting over it, or you'll end up with eggs on the ground because someone couldn't find a free nesting box available. Supplements are important for in certain circumstances, especially calcium, because the chickens need a lot of calcium to lay an egg. That's the eggshell is predominantly calcium. And so you need to make sure that they have either oyster shell or some sort of other supplement that will give their shells a good strength and sturdiness to them. You may need to do some grooming, like wing clipping if your fence isn't quite high enough to deter them from flying over. If you clip just the tips of the feathers on one of their wings, not both, but one, that way they'll fly off balance if they do try to get out. So they'll end up kind of wobbling to the ground and won't be able to get over the fence. So that's something you may have to do depending on your situation. You need to look at what could happen with disease and injury. Sometimes those things are things that will come up as you come to them. You have a sick bird. Oh no, it's time to research what to have them. It is good to just be aware of some of the issues that can come up with birds. Things like Merrick's Newcastle disease, bumblefoot. I've dealt with bumblefoot a few times. And then also needing to dispatch a bird. You need to think about what are you going to do when you have a bird that's suffering and needs to be put down out of pity so that it doesn't continue to suffer. And now the fun part. There are hundreds of chicken breeds worldwide. Cackle Hatchery is a very well-known hatchery, and they have a blog I looked at. And Gail DeMero, who is the author of The Chicken Encyclopedia on Cackle Hatchery's blog, she says that while there are several hundred breeds worldwide, we don't even know how many distinct chicken breeds are recognized in the United States. The American Poultry Association recognizes 53 large breeds, plus additional bantam chickens, and some of them have large counterparts, some do not. But actually, we really don't even know how many breeds there are, which is very cool. So you want to think about whether you want roosters. Some breeds have roosters that are nice, generally. Some breeds tend to have mean roosters. Do you want a heavy breed or a light breed? What climate are you in? Do you need birds that handle heat well, or ones that can really put on their down coats, so to speak, and handle cold weather? Do you need ones that will lay an egg every day for a year, or do you not care about that and you'd rather have birds that are just for fun? Maybe they're going to be pets. Maybe you'd like them to lay green eggs. There is such a thing. Do you want them to be broody? Are you planning on letting them hatch their own chicks and mother them? There are certain breeds that are better with that. And then personality as well. Some breeds, such as some bantam breeds especially, are known to be really, really friendly. And generally, just as a general rule, heavier breeds tend to be more friendly than light breeds. Not always, but that's a general principle. And then the fun part at the end is, what color do you want? Maybe you want something with a top hat. Maybe you want feathered feet. I don't know, but there are lots of options out there. So have fun and do your research before deciding to dive into backyard chickens. But it is a worthwhile endeavor. And take your time and go for it. Here are my works cited.